Welcome everyone to episode 3 of our LVL UP Podcast, and today with me my good friend Eric Yensu, producer, director, actor, overall creative person. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We meant to sit for a while and have this interview for like a while. We had idea that we're gonna just sit and have this natural sort of conversation, unscripted. So I'm very excited to finally, have a chance to do this.
Of course, me too. We already had it off the record a while ago.
Yes, we did. So because recently I saw there was a lot of action, movement on social media. You were doing some very cool things. Like there was a Sway. Like tell me about that. What is that film?
Yeah, so Sway's a movie filmed last year. With some wonderful actors, wonderful writer friend of mine who wrote the script and also co-directed it with a YouTuber named Zach Ramelan, and then Emmanuel Kabongo, who's a well-established actor from out here in Canada. He's the lead. And then we have his co-lead, Michelle Morgan, who she's known for Young and the Restless. Yeah, she won a Daytime Emmy a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
As the first Black woman to win a Daytime Emmy. Wow. Black actress, yeah.
Wow. And you were producing on that one?
Yeah, I was a producer on that one. And that story was kicking around for a while, so it's a good confirmation that things will get made in due time.
Right. And it was produced here in Toronto, right?
Yeah, it was produced here in Toronto.
Nice. Yeah. Can you give me a brief sort of synopsis of it?
Yeah, it follows Sway Drayton, who's a community leader. He's somebody who has been committed to cleaning up his neighborhood, an underserved neighborhood. And he also has a brother who is, he's an aspiring football player, and it's the morning after the NFL draft, and he's been selected, and he's about to be interviewed for this magazine. EQ's 40 Under 40, and what he thinks is going to be the culmination of all of his efforts and the best day ever. There's also a statue being revealed for Coach. That was a big influence on the community, but everything's not what it seems, and actually what's supposed to be the best day of his life turns out to be his worst day of his life when buried secrets start to rise. Right.
Wow, you got me. That's a good cliffhanger. But how was the team? How was working, with the team here in Toronto, and like how was the production for you?
Yeah, the production was good. I'm familiar with a lot of the team, but I was lucky that I get to coordinate a lot of how well it will go or not in terms of, making the schedule and in terms of keeping a certain chill vibe on set. But working with the team is it's not for the faint of heart.
Why?
Because everybody has their opinions and they're valid, and it's their perspective. So to make sure they're all being analyzed and everybody feels included, and to not just like lead but be able to follow in terms of a group atmosphere, it's not that easy. That's when sometimes things will break apart, or it could bring a team closer together. Right. So in this terms, it bring everybody closer together. So that's good.
And being in different positions on set, and like being actor, being director, like now being producer on set, like which job for you feels harder?
The hardest job would be probably producing.
Right.
Yeah, probably producing, because you just have to be very, very accommodating. But the other things I do make the producing easier, because now I can understand where it's like, okay, I want to make sure it's easy for the actor, make sure it's easy for the director, make sure it's easy for everybody on set, because it's people that are helping put this together. So I think if you serve the people and they feel good, then you're going to get good work, and that kind of energy will show up on camera, and you'll get the job done. I like to make sure I'm enjoying it, because that's what we're doing.
Right, that makes sense. Well, also, you recently sent me this project, what I was kind of fascinated about, which was called Visa Infinite. And I saw it, and then later I saw it on Sixbus, and I was like, what is this? Is this a trailer? It's a trailer for a project that's going to happen? Or
yeah, we released it. It's like a bit of what I call like a vertical series. So it's a bit of a few episodes in reel format.
Wow, that's a good concept. I really like that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's just a bit of a public experiment. So decided with the concept, wrote, produced it.
I almost felt like, because initially when I saw it, I
Yeah.
almost felt like, oh, this is a promo for a movie or something.
Good.
It was really good. It was
Thanks.
really good. I was very impressed. And then yeah, you sent it to me, and then I saw it on Six Buzz, and I was like, wow, it's such a fascinating concept as well. Can you tell me more about that? Where that idea is coming? Infinite Visa.
Yeah. So I work at a company called Hutsy Financial, and they have a debit card that acts like a credit card. It helps you build credit. So with every purchase, you're building credit. And in the modern age now, there's a lot of flux in media, like whether it comes to Hollywood with the strikes, or it comes to, people have probably been hearing about like mass layoffs when it comes to like places like CBC or Bell, when it comes to Entertainment Tonight being canceled, when it comes to a lot of advertising dollars migrating off of TV to the web. So, I pictured maybe a scenario where it's really brands that are driving like what content gets made. So it makes sense to experiment in a way where you can integrate a brand into a story and pretty much present this as entertainment that also showcases your product or service in a good light. So like sitting back and being entertained, and then now your brand is fully integrated without having to do full commercial.
Right.
So that was the experiment.
It was nice, and it was very organic, I think, for the credit card brand to be involved, like, because the whole concept of that story is that you have infinite Visa.
Okay, good.
I loved it.
Well, thank you, because it's risky out here. I don't know if
So
you
you guys
like it or not.
Are you guys developing it more? Like, are you planning to do more seasons, or
Yeah, I think about doing a season 2 already, and
is it going to be the same concept, or are you going to shuffle and bring something else into it?
for that property itself, I think I'll probably do a continuation of that story that kind of builds on it, but definitely have some other ideas in terms of experimenting in this like vertical cinema realm.
Right. And do you think that's the future in a way? Like, that's where it's going, like for more vertical videos, or?
I think so. Like, everybody's on their phone, you know what I mean? And it just seems to become more popular. And I feel like it's a good space to experiment on. I think it's a good space to experiment on, but we'll see. Like, nobody knows the future. The media landscape is very in flux right now.
Yeah. I see that. There's a lot of talk about here in Toronto that we kind of like submissive to the U.S. industry here, and we need more our own projects, more our own shows, more our own films, so we can serve our own creative industry without just waiting for something to happen from US. So there's that argument going around.
Well, that's the proper argument, and because that's how it used to be, but like some deals were made where certain powers that be thought it'd be more feasible to just buy US content and then also get some money from them coming to like produce it, instead of actually investing in our own creative space where we can tell our own stories about this. Like, I see how, like, for example, they have like a Law and Order Toronto, and that's its own intellectual property, but at the same, and it's great. Like, there's nothing, I like Law and Order, everybody knows the Dune, but in terms of how I see it, I think there should be a rival IP that's not Law and Order, that's about crime in terms of Canadians, produced by Canadians, written by Canadians, etc.
I feel there's a lot of opportunity for Canadian market to get saturated by Canadian content. It's because right now it's not so much. There's only a few select Canadian shows that you can even watch, and I don't know if it's getting surpassed on the stage of concept or script or just Toronto, or like Canada just doesn't elevate their own people. Like, I don't know what's the problem. Like, what do you feel is the issue here? There's not that much growth in terms of the processes of filmmaking, to the extent it's kind of even like lagging behind, like even when it comes to simple delivery logistics, to like ordering goods on Amazon, getting it the next day, or even comes to digital information and high speed access. Right. For me, the cycle of making films is almost like insane, really. It takes too long. There's so much red tape
instead of creating, as I say, a proper production cycle for actually pushing the IP.
Mm-hmm.
Because the production itself moves fast. Like when you want to shoot something like this, I get the camera, blah, 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 right? That's easy. But in terms of getting in like an idea to actually being produced, there's so many question marks around there in like such an arbitrary way where I think if people knew the process, it'd be so much easier just to refine something till it gets to A-OK, like most industries.
Do you feel like it maybe because there's some gatekeepers, there's some people guarding, the entrances to this industry, that it's inaccessible in a way, like to write and get your show produced, for example?
Yeah, I would say gatekeepers, and like fear. Mm-hmm. But depends on what kind of product they're trying to make as well too, because classically for filmmakers, you'd want somebody to give their personal expression or a take on something. You know what I mean? But I feel like at this point, when it comes to certain powers that be, they're pretty much sending a message that this is the kind of film that I'm looking for.
Right.
And the only way for you to make it is to make what's hot or like trending instead of like be creative or original. So
you feel like industry is a little restrictive on the, topics and themes that it would want to see.
Yeah, but it's kind of that resistance itself. It depends on which way you falter, because you could just be like, okay, let me just make something original, or you could apply. But I think it does also make the creator think to themselves, like, what am I actually making? Right. And why is it like significant? And how come I'm not making it if I have the resources to make it? So I think it can be self-reflective in terms of coming up with your own way to do it, which I think is the new answer in this modern way. If you don't like something, you can do it your way.
Right. Oh, I like that. I feel, honestly, like we have the tools right now. Like most people have tools to shoot stuff and produce stuff, and like cameras became affordable. Your phones shoot great quality. So it only boiled down to the story you want to tell and maybe access to actors. And that's the only kind of two restrictions I see right now, honestly, because production is no longer this, mountain that people dying on, because it became so much easier.
Exactly. And I think kind of the digitized process of it, there's too many there's not really a catalyst other than money sometimes when it comes to shooting, because like somebody's going to spend some time in a room by themselves and come up with a script, and then maybe they'll shop it around, and then we'll see. Like I myself right now, I'm kind of in the lab, think about a process where it's like, it's kickstarting the movement once you have an idea, and kind of while you're preparing, you're still molding this idea to have this forward momentum of like actually making it. Because I feel like something that slows things down is like the general known process of doing things is, it should take time, and you got to do like 6 drafts, and you got to do this and da 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 and da 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 da. When it's like 6, if you count down like your life, like you don't have many 6 months like blocks like in your life, So I'm trying to look for a way to start turning around making these films and content faster, but still making quality. But at the end of the day, it's really trying to see your artistic level at whatever budget or resources you're operating at.
That's true. Actually, if you look back at that and you think about, like you said, in 6-month blocks for projects, there's only so many in this case you can, produce and make if you're thinking in those time constraints. For like big films, like I used to, work on TV films, they will take like 2-3 years to produce.
Damn.
And you will work on them, and I would be like assistant director, and we will be like in a forest for like half a year, somewhere in the middle of the woods, shooting about, Second World War or something like that. So yeah, it's wild. The deadlines and like the time frames of, film production, they change. It's faster right now, but now we're talking about 6 months, not 2 years, but 6 months is still a lot of time.
Exactly. And then, sorry, go ahead.
But I'm looking forward to the same thing that you're saying, like finding a ways to make turnarounds faster and produce something, much faster, so you can put it out there and then move on to the next project and, just make turnarounds faster.
Exactly. So that's the way I've been trying to operate. So many things like you could look at and be like, oh, that's good. How'd you do? I'm like, that was only really a couple hours,
Yeah.
or we're doing this, but trying to refine the process into more of a recipe is what I'm thinking about.
How long was the Sway? How long was the Sway production?
The Sway production. Okay, we'll see. You might have to bleep this out.
Oh,
I'm
no.
not sure I'm supposed to say how long it was supposed to be.
No.
But between you and I, like, we're able to do that in 7 days.
Wow. Okay, this is next level.
And that's
now
my steez,
Wow.
7 days, right?
7 days. Wow.
So do a movie in 7 days.
That's impressive. What was the turnaround for Infinite Visa project?
Oh, that's good. Like, that's a good experiment. So I usually, if it's my process, I usually conceptualize something before writing anything, but thought about it. Going through a few ideas, going for a walk, but maybe took a week to like really conceptualize it, and then I'll just write it in that day. Then I asked my friends and partners, "Are you down with this?" They're like, "Okay." "Hey, you want to come shoot this?" "Okay." He came up the next week. We shot it just in that week sporadically, like a few hours here and there, maybe probably 12 hours total shoot time over a few days. And then it was probably edited in a couple weeks. So maybe like 5 weeks turnaround time from idea to ending with that.
Nice. That's the whole series.
Yeah, the whole series.
Oh, wow.
And even with Sway as well too. Like, we had the script for a while, but pretty much agreed to do it. And it was done shooting within 2 months. Like, we shot for a week. About a month and a half later when we started saying, let's do this.
And how do you think just the Toronto industry just on its own? Do you feel like we have enough potential to maybe go over Hollywood? Like here, do you feel like it's growing? It's stagnating? What's happening here?
Yeah, it's good. It's almost like a two-edged sword, because like it's super multicultural, which is good, and super like multi-niche, and whatever interest you have, if you come to Toronto, you're going to find it. But at the same time, it's not necessarily like cohesive.
Right. It's too segmented, right?
Yeah.
Like it's too many.
Yeah, but it works
options.
too, because the competition, being competitive, makes us like all good, but it almost like puts a bit of an invisible ceiling where it's like, you want to build something bigger. You want to work and collaborate with people. Right. Like, I think collaboration is really important in terms of making sure you're both aligned on what your goals are, and not trying to use somebody as a means to an end, but saying, okay, I'm going this way. Like, let's walk some of this way together.
Right.
And do something.
Right. And I truly think that maybe Toronto has a little bit trouble with collaborating. Like, just maybe, going backwards to that multiculturalism and people, pulling pulling it in different directions and everyone doing its own thing. I feel like it's just my experience moving to Toronto, about 7-8 years ago, that Toronto is a bit more competitive. Like, people just generally have like competitive mindset. Like, a lot of people don't want to collaborate because they think everyone is competition.
Yeah, the egos are out of control in Toronto. Like, it's insane. The ego's out of control in Toronto, but like, that's a part of its swag. It's like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Like,
it's I would say there's a lot of fake fame happening in Toronto. Like, just people
clout chasing, as they call it. Clout chasing.
yeah there's a lot of that happening.
There's a lot of clout chasing. God bless everybody, God bless everybody. It's not that hard though. You have to really commit. Like, if you want to be
a clout
famous
chaser?
For any, if you're chasing clout, I expect you should do like some pretty exciting things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Like, I think.
So do you believe in that idea of like fake it till you make it? Is that a thing?
No, you gotta keep it
Why
real.
not?
No, what are you faking anything? Like, you have to keep it real. People like authenticity. It's just in terms of the context which people are viewing you through, and then what context you view yourself. Like, right. I think, actually, to be a bit more nuanced and not too dualistic, I believe in fake it till you make it, as long as you're very conscious about your fakery.
Right.
You don't want to make your own cult of personality where you start believing your own hype.
Delusional.
Yeah. But if you know you're like, this is like a big act or something like that, I actually like can dig you on that steez. You know?
Yeah, I feel a lot of people lost track of what they can do and what they can do. They started believing, believing they're, faking, and I don't know, but that's Toronto for me. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of people, trying to fake it till they make it, and everyone is in the process. Like, it feels like a lot of people just in the process.
Exactly. Everybody's just trying their best to do some things,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I feel maybe Toronto social media is one of the most toxic social medias.
100%.
Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I would say so. The only thing that's tough is that it becomes an actual reflection of like what's going on in terms of some of these like people, or even like your culture at all. You know what I mean? Like, you could see a video of like a robbery in your neighborhood and think it's like the worst neighborhood ever,
Yeah.
So it's an interesting story in terms of like these actually coming from like real people.
Well, yeah, and it distorts your vision of real life in a way, because for example, I work in news, right? So I go to a lot of shootings in Toronto, to a lot of murder, stabbings, some people jumping off the roofs, and then you have this distorted view of life when you think it's like happening all the time everywhere, but
right.
You just in news, so you go to them, most of the people don't even notice it, and it's probably not happening more than in Miami. Probably not. What do you think? It's happening more there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Florida, I think, will be topping the list.
Florida's
right?
nuts. Okay, Florida's nuts right here. Florida man. If you ever know that game.
But getting back home to Toronto, did you study it here, by the way?
I went to Western.
You went to Western
in London, Ontario,
and you studied film.
No,
you didn't. What did you study?
Pharmacology and toxicology. I used to study like science.
Sciences?
Yeah. So I'm more of a scientific looker, even though people wouldn't really assume that, because I'm really heavy into the arts and my philosophy and whatnot,
So what was the point when you were like, okay, I'm done with sciences, I'm going to go to creative field? Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, it's like tough. I have my own curse. I don't like what they call filthy lucre or like dirty money, and without throwing shade at like anybody, just certain like systems for like let's say like in terms of the pharmaceutical business, there's just certain things I didn't agree with ethically.
Okay.
So decided to depart from that, and had like during a time when I was growing and changing my perspective and learning more information about like, how what I do affects the rest of the world, and things that, just having different paradigm shifts. So was one of the things to go during those times.
Yeah, it's just interesting transition, from sciences to arts, and like into to that extent into like film and acting, directing, producing. Like, that's nowhere near for me, and it's not close industries.
Right? Well, it is. The best way for me to say like how it's close is your film is a part of your scientific method. You have your hypothesis about something, and then you create this thing to like actually be observed perennially.
Oh, it's interesting. I like that. That's an interesting view I never thought about, like scientific method while you're making a film, like thinking about your, film idea as a thesis.
Exactly. And you put it out, and people are like, they see what people think and what they believe, or if they like it or if they don't.
So basically, you're testing it. Was the idea, right or wrong?
Yeah. Well, like that's the thing. Like, everybody has their own sense of like touchy feelings. Like, I think that's the main thing that'd be tough in Toronto. Then once attached to ego, it's different. Like, if I can think about different arguments I can have with people, for me, I just like when people are going to like walk what they talk, if they have like strong opinions about things, you know what I mean? And that's why for me, like if you believe something, then live it in some way, or create something that like at least you're looking at your idea in practice instead of being some sort of zealot, you know what I mean? Because if I think something and I project it in a film, and then you can watch it and perceive that, then at least I can say I have some sort of grasp on this perhaps, or there's some sort of validity to like looking at something at this perspective because I've put it forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel we have a lack of that sort of, people standing their ground and protecting their beliefs or their thoughts right now. We're kind of lacking that right now. It's just my opinion, because a lot of people are afraid of, being canceled, saying what they truly believe, and like that's the world we're living right now. Like people policing themselves because they think they will say dumb shit.
They're sickos, man.
To extent.
Yeah, well, it's true. Like there's a lot of fear going on in terms of like I don't know, like it's such hypocrisy really, where people like would say they don't care what people think about them, but they do when it comes to making like certain real decisions. You know what I mean?
They do.
Or in terms of like speaking the mind, like you don't have to come out here and say anything, but like I think one of the reasons why I've had some like good friendships in Toronto, or good friendships overall, is because I've allowed, like, I accept you as yourself. I can still challenge your ideas. We can talk in that realm.
Right.
But like, I just do that because like, why not? Like what else was to discuss but philosophy of this? But like, you're supposed to be yourself and learn how to be your best self. So like, that's your life. You know what I mean? Like that's a singular in terms of finding your purpose of like why you exist.
Right.
And going through that while still having external stimuli, but being comfortable going through the human experience of doing that. But I feel like to hop on that point, I think the social media thing, I think the energy of judgment has just been amplified so much that it's like, it's even in the room when you're by yourself or something at this point, you know what I mean? Like it's super subtle, right? The judgment.
It's there. The judgment is there. That's we were just talking about, Six Buzz, and it's hilarious. It's like just my favorite comment feed. My favorite kind of comment feed is a Six Buzz comment feed. It just, whatever they posting, it's not even relevant. It's just whatever happening there in the comments, and there's like wars among people there, and people will eat you there. Like that's one of the most toxic comment feeds in Toronto, I think.
Yo, like there's like these people on the internet, man.
Wow, yeah.
What they say, like a hater, because like for me, like I'm just telling you, like I love looking at stuff online and I view a lot of things, but nothing's ever like really prompted me to go in a comment section and get like toxic.
That's what always surprises me. Who are those kind of people who will just comment the mad shit? Like what kind of person is like have to go out of their way to everything for them to stop and write this essay,
It's provoking something. It's provoking some feeling they have already, There's some sort of something charged in you that you have already. So it's good for analysis. Like you should like look at yourself after posting one of those. Be like, what's going on with me today?
Yeah, but everyone knows that there's no point. There's no winning argument in there. Like it's not like. So I understand the trolls. Like I get them. They have, they have their own goals and they just pursue them,
Exactly.
It makes sense for it's just the people who like, unironically just commenting.
Outrageous.
Yeah,
but they're the ones keeping the lights on. I guess they're the ones really running social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
They're the real ones active on there. So they're policing it, right?
I think Six Buzz will go away if they will. If they will get rid of trolls, Six Buzz is done. No trolls, no Six Buzz.
Trolls. Yeah.
But also another topic I wanted to talk about was about just filmmaking in general, and now we're just knowing that you have like completely different perspective by going, from science into, film, and maybe what's your takeaways as coming from like a different industry into this creative industry and just seeing how things work? Maybe you see something that is like not working right, and maybe you have a different perspective on it.
Yeah, from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first off, from the outside looking in, I'd say most people in the film and cinematic industry probably are in it because they wanted to make films at some point. But the majority of people don't end up making films at all. You know what I mean? So I find that even being, and it's good because it works with proximity, but like, I feel like even being close to the process keeps some sort of dream alive. But like, I don't know. I in terms of the film industry, it seems like there's a certain pathway of working. I never knew it was so substantial in terms of working from big budget productions where like this is somebody's like livelihood, right? Like if I'm coming in from the film industry, I'm like, there's some director like Spike Lee's making his movie.
Yeah.
And he's making it just for me, and then whoever's whatever. Like, you know, I know Denzel, I don't know the gaffer, I never knew the grip, I don't know the lighting, I don't know the sound, I don't know these integral people, editor or whatever. You never knew that growing up. I loved movies. So when I see that everybody's working together for one cause, like it's a very, I think filmmakers are probably some of the like hardest working people. They work 12 hours, they're committed, like they know they can't really be late for things, like time is money. They have to usually have deep focus between when they're doing things, and they really do have to get along with like their crew, at least in terms of technically. Like this is one of the industries where I can see like people that like don't even like working together being able to accomplish the task, you know. But yeah, like I admire the filmmaking process and respect it, have experience in it, and also think, and because I've met so many like people that I like in it, I've always thought about like how things could be like kind of easier on them or how they could better get towards their goals. So many times when I worked on a film set, like I'd end up shooting like a short film with some people that are interested like on the crew. If somebody's like, oh, I'm here working this, but I want to act, or I'm here doing this, or I want to write, or I'm here doing this, but I want to do costumes. Well, I was like, okay, let's do something. You can act in this, you can do costumes, and etc.
That's what I noticed as well. Like in the industry, there's a lot of people like you mentioned, gaffers, you know, lighting technicians, and grip, who actually want to, you know, be in camera department or be a DP or be a director, and they're in the process. And there's a lot of people in the process, but I almost feel like sometimes I feel like it's a wrong kind of move, is being stuck in a department where you're never going to be able to showcase those skills. So if you want to be in camera, right, and you're stuck in grip, and people somehow think that the producer will be on set and he will see how good you grip and then he will be like, oh, let's, you know, you're the next DP. But that's not how things works, right?
Yeah.
Don't you feel the same?
No,
it's like people just they doing the wrong thing. They basically, you know, doing the wrong thing, expecting the right results, you know?
Yeah. And that's interesting because that's where their hope is going to go. And I think like a lot of your hope and faith needs to go into like you taking like chances on yourself instead of believing in things like outside of yourself in terms of like what you're applying your spiritual energy to in terms of hoping for like an outcome, you know, because that's powerful. That's a powerful energy, especially if you're not going to get like the cycle of return,
right?
Depending on what you're doing. But it's so doggy dog out here that like at the end of the day, like my thought is that like, you know what, if you win like somebody for yourself, for example, who's like doing things where people can collaborate with you, it's like we're gonna take time to focus on like, man, maybe you should be doing this and doing that, and then we're gonna go back to, well, you know what, when I'm doing my thing bigger, I'll make sure when you're here, you're doing your thing with me, because like it's kind of hard to, what I've realized is kind of is easier to lead from the front. It's so hard to like gather people in the beginning when you want to do something, you know. People more like to hop onto the train of seeing what you're doing already. They feel more confident in that. That's what I've experienced.
Yeah, it's much harder to build something from ground up. It's easier to join something that's already happening. But in most cases, when you're joining something already happening, you're not getting those lucrative kind of positions that you maybe want to be in, right? And that's just, for me, it just maybe the wrong way of progressing in the industry when people go and they join some department they have no interest in the hopes that, again, will producer or director somewhere on set will see them and be like, well, you lay tracks so good, you must be a good DP. Like that's never happened, I think, in the history.
Yeah, that's why I think you just need to go get a camera. Like you gotta
show
doing it
more proactive, and I think you should risk more. Like you should just risk more. The more risk you risk, the more chances that you will succeed.
Exactly. Like you gotta look into other industries and be like, where's the blogger versus like journalist? You know what I mean? Like journalists had to go to school. Now it's like, yo, you're up to date on news and you have your cogent points about something. You could just be some guy in his basement that's generating this thing. So I think it just goes down to like taking risks in terms of autonomy. I feel like at this point it's like everything's moving so fast. It's so hard to like hitch your train to something when it seems like that train station is even a bit like wonky and wobbly.
Yeah.
I think it's good to like see the best, like have people you can work with, but do something where you can really rely on yourself and be like, I'll do this even if I'm like doing it by myself, which makes me a stronger asset to work with somebody else that you can boast each other instead of like really like have to lean on each other.
Yeah, especially in this industry. It's like, if we're talking about film, it's purely collaborative. Like there's no film when you're alone.
Yeah, you gotta get somebody, get an actor or a girl in the gun, like
exactly.
Exactly.
You have to have your team, you have to have your band, and you have to be collaborative. And that's maybe one ways that Toronto, for me, failing in being collaborative, because everyone tries to be so competitive, and it may be good for startups or like finance bros, maybe it's good for them, but for film it doesn't work. And maybe like just thinking about it, I feel maybe that's one of the problems of Toronto and with film, that it's just so darn competitive and people don't want to collaborate, and that's why we don't have our own projects.
Exactly. Like, well, like what were you, so give me an example from your point of view, like where you're like trying to collaborate, it's not working. Like, where do you get your thing of like, it's been hard to collaborate? Where?
Well, just people have their own, goals and agendas, and when they feel that they're gonna share the spotlight with someone else, they don't want to share the spotlight. They want to have a spotlight on them, like, and so people have their own agenda, which is fine. Like, we all have our own goals, and we want to, further our goals. But I think the key is in collaboration and in helping other people to achieve, and that's how you elevate yourself. You don't elevate yourself, other people elevate you. That's the thing, and that's what sometimes people don't understand, that you don't just go and elevate yourself. You have to help other people, and they will elevate. It will return to you. But if your goal is just to elevate yourself, like, that's never going to happen, because you won't go, and help other people. Because I feel when you're working on a project and you like seeing, oh, this person has an amazing script, this person has, amazing, camera skills, let's elevate them. So you're going there to do the project with them to elevate, them. And that elevates all of you, including, yourself.
Yeah.
But if your goal to elevate, and if every step you're thinking about how I'm going to elevate myself, how I'm going to put the spotlight on me, so my work has to shine, therefore everything else has to be a little dimmer, so my shines more, So now you have this kind of benchmark for yourself, that this whatever, the top shelf that no one should jump over, because if they shine too much, right? So if that DP is too good, if that screenplay is like overwhelming your directing or whatever, or your editing, you would feel like, oh, they taking my spotlight, now everyone is talking about them. So therefore you're finding people who's worse than you in terms of skill set, so you can shine compared to them. That's how that's how I feel a lot of people behave in Toronto.
No, well, that's lucky for me, because like we're gonna collaborate, so that's good that you've been alienated by these sycophants, okay?
Well, it just I feel like it just because of I don't know, maybe it's education, maybe it's like North American thing, but it just I noticed that North American they just generally more egocentric, more it's about them. They're not communal. Like I'm coming from Eastern Europe, so we kind of and just generally poorer countries like Ukraine, they more communal. There's bigger families, extended families, right? So it's like when we went out, it wasn't, you know, back in my country, as a friend, as a group, it wasn't about what I want to eat. It's what we want to eat, right? It was never like, oh, I want, you know, pepperoni, therefore we eat pepperoni.
Exactly.
You know? No, it's what group, and then you like, yeah, I want, you know, whatever the group wants, right?
Yeah.
And here in North America, it's a little different. It's I want everything, therefore everything has to stop. And it's even, you know, it even exaggerated even more right now with the different, you know, subgroups, and people are like saying, look at me, I'm so unique, everyone has to stop and accommodate me now, you know. So that's the difference for me, and that's why they failing at collaborative industries like film, because it requires people to do something for like a greater good of a group, you know, of a production, not for your own, you know, gains.
Exactly. Like you have to have the process. It can't just be a means to an end. Like, but people are like that here in the Western world, as they say. If we're very comparative, I think that. So like in terms of when people are trying to climb the hierarchy, they're really looking at like who they can be better at. And then the first group is like the peers. So I don't know, like I feel I have a different perspective. So it's like a lot easier for me to like work with people. Because like I got like big dream. I think everybody's dream fits in my dream. So like let's say like I don't want to be the quarterback on the Super Bowl. I want to be like the guy that like runs the NFL. Here, you guys can play because I've organized this thing now, and everybody's having fun, everybody's making money, everybody's doing their thing. I think like that's probably the best position to be in, instead of being somebody that's looking to compete with the next person beside them.
Yeah. Well, I feel that's the sort of, you know, that's in a way my path. Like I work as a, you know, I'm support personnel. Like you want to create something, I'm the one who's going to help you do it. Like that's one way, you know, of doing it. But yeah, I was never for the spotlight, you know, I was never one for, you know, that's just not me. And a lot of people working, I feel a lot of people working in film and in production feel the same, especially if they crew, you know, actually the people who shooting, who, you know, setting up the decorations, who's you know, setting up the props, and like that's the kind of people who will help you to create something, you know.
Exactly.
And that's their goal, and that's their motivation. So there's definitely a different motivation. That's getting back to that this industry is not meant for people who are like takers. It's more for people who are givers, you know?
Exactly.
In a way.
Givers and makers.
Givers and makers. Oh, I like that.
That's it, you know? Givers and makers. No, it's not. But like, you know, I feel there's a lot of opportunity now, but things are going to change. Like, I feel like you have to make sure you can spread your skill set around, because if you work in a role where you're part of some sort of production, like in the modern world, when they tried to make that production more efficient in some sort of way of technology, and then now you're not necessary, then like you could have yourself in a predicament. Like even like many of these recent, even, you know, executives, when it comes to some of the media firing, whether that be somebody that's like a programmer or something like that, you know, that's not necessarily as useful as a film, like in terms of like ubiquitous as like a grip or something like that, who can be like integral to a production part. But I just really think there's just going to be more pressure for everybody overall to like be more creative. And I think that's like
because of technology, because of AI,
because of what you're saying. Like it's a result of like not want to be collaborative. Like you're going to face the result of that by like being on your own. And then you're going to be like, somebody help me, right? And you're going to not look good when you're projecting to people who you devalued that you now need help. Where I think in terms of the way things are going, that the people who are like collaborative are going to position themselves in like a better place.
And it's interestingly, I'm thinking that technology helps us to facilitate exactly that, just being disconnected, which is kind of weird and backwards, because just access to better technology and writing, like AI writing with ChatGPT and stuff like that, allows you to be a singular creator, allows you to be a blogger, vlogger, just someone who has their own thing, without the crew, without the team. And then by doing that, you definitely have no skills working in a big team. So it's like you actually closing yourself even more. And again, it's just boosting your ego. That's so much more, because you're like, oh, people following me. It's all about me. I did this. So I don't know. That's just a different path. I'm just exploring it.
But people are like pushing a lot of the solo creator thing now, because people are trying to have their individual ways. So I think it depends. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really like that, just be in the room with the computer, but like these days I spend a lot of time on the computer, like coming up with ideas and things. But like you said, strange times. Like it's hard to analyze that, where it's like, yeah, you have the digital connection and you could be inside your house forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you feel like we lost touch with this generation, with this new stay at home with a computer generation? Or?
Oh, at my point, if you're not like not having some sort of like negative and confused sentiment towards like younger generations, then you're just not getting old. I think it's like, I forget what somebody said. It says, even when you don't like the music of a particular generation, it means you're getting older.
Yeah.
So it's funny, because like even now I can have my gripes, which is almost like karma, I think, in terms of how I dealt with the older generation when I was younger. And not like listening and having some sort of disconnect in terms of like a communication, but I think I definitely say that even though the age difference hasn't changed, the generational gap is like widening at different accelerating rates, just because of like the different cultures and niches around, really. You know what I mean? It used to be like more archetypal based when we were growing up. Like, you ever see Breakfast Club, the movie?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, so Breakfast Club, side story. Breakfast Club was John Hughes' film, who was one of the most popular directors in the 80s, because he did a lot of teenage drama. And it was a movie about these teenagers that have to stay detention like on a Saturday morning with this hard ass principal. And everybody was one of these stereotypical articles from the 80s. There was the jock, there was the bad boy, there was the popular girl, there was like the goth person, and there was the nerd. And these were kind of the archetypes when we were growing up that people would fall into. And if you smoke cigarettes or this thing, you're bad. If you do this, you're et cetera, et cetera. But at least I feel like there was a bit more of a handle in terms of being able to understand people and their motives, because they were kind of like each parts of a whole. And now I think, as you said, when it could be so desegmented that like somebody can really be on their own, making some sort of subculture or subgroup, or this new political movement can rise, and then people are joining in this way. It's just, I feel like people are connecting over not mundane things, but I think people are building real communities over such carnal things these days. And I feel like we were always like back in terms of generation, in terms of family and community values, were like what we based things on. So it was never really the individual at the expense of the whole. You would be like alienated from group, I think, at that point. Now, even when you're alienated from the group, you can still kind of survive digitally and with these other people that you build your own communities with, even though you're still existing in a physical community.
And that's the root of it, where it's coming from. I think it's coming from is just because of that egocentrism. Is about like me, about me, what I want. It's not about what other people want, and because you're not sympathizing with other people. And I think the key in growth and like expanding your mindset is in is in being generous towards other people and relate to other people and have built empathy towards other people. And it's just very unfortunate that we don't look like children, because in a lot of ways we are like, we don't really grow up. Like I didn't grow up, like I surpassed that age when my parents had me. And I remember when I was a kid, I was looking at them, I thought they knew all the answers. They so well put together. They like, everything is under control, right? They know everything about life. And then when I reached that age, I was like, oh, they had no freaking clue what was happening.
Yeah.
They were winging it,
trying their best.
Exactly. So when you surpass that and you realize that people don't really grow up, like you don't grow up, you remain a kid. So in a lot of ways, when someone's being angry or annoying, or maybe something, like, we should approach them as kids. It's like, you would never come to kid crying and you would be like, kid, okay, what's wrong? Why are you crying? You're not going to be serious about that. You'll be, oh, maybe he's tired. Maybe he's, he wants to eat, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we should approach grown-ups like that. We should say, oh, he's not an asshole, maybe he wants to eat, maybe he's tired, maybe something hurts, maybe someone hurt him, right? So if we will extend that generosity, to grown-ups, I feel like we would be better as society, as human beings.
No, 100%. And accept that some people are assholes. Some assholes are like the best people in the world.
Well, yes, but there's always a cause, right? There's always something causing that, like they like that because they've been hurt or they've been damaged or they've been attacked and now they want to protect themselves, right? Like there's always reason, and we allow that sort of way of thinking and that generosity towards kids, because we are like, we say we found a million ways to explain why they're just being running around and like being angry and like bothering people. Like there's a million explanations, right? He has too much energy, he's like, he haven't ate today, or maybe someone offended him, right? But we don't usually extend that same kind of generosity towards grown-ups, because we're like, oh, they grown-ups, therefore everything is under control.
Yeah.
But in most cases it's not under control. Like we still are in the core animals and like children, so we don't have anything under control.
Yeah, no, I think it's just like, so this society's so heady. Like I feel like it's just so complex that we have like so many things to like look at and like think about in terms of like, because I feel like the way society is laid out, we're just out of joint, and then certain like natures of ours start like dominating, because like it's like, okay, now we're gonna be tribal, okay, now we're gonna be more selfish, okay, now I gotta get mine, etc. And I feel like it's tough, like this human experience. Everybody's trying, like literally getting up. The number one thing you can do to like try, I feel like, is like getting out of bed. You get up, you get out of bed, like you're up today, right? As they say, right? You're gonna try and do your thing, and you're on this perennial cycle of trying where life's not easy all the time. But I think now it's because physically we are experienced this society. I feel like it's time to have like that mental and spiritual sharpness, as you said, like when it comes to referring to somebody who you think is an asshole. It's like, you have to be able to look at things clearly. You got to be able to look at things clearly, because we live in such a connected society that like our sins are like affecting people like so quickly, you know what I mean? Or you're going to do some stupid rant online, like just terrible, you know what I mean? And,
but you have to almost feel like, to see things clearly, you have to step out from this ego. You have to step out of and look, on the big picture. And that's what I feel like egocentrism, and thinking about what's stopping you of seeing the big picture and seeing, other people's needs as legit, like, so in a way I feel like that sort of tunnel vision of thinking about what you want, and it's about you, and it's a competition, and you have to win. That's what kind of limits your worldview and like possibilities for you. I think that's the biggest limiting factor, that everything is a competition, and you have to think about your horse or whatever, or your bet, and like work on you. And like there's other lives, I think, that need help, and if you will be able to be extend that sort of generosity or grace to other people, I feel we all will be win at the end. And that's what I returning back to, that you don't elevate yourself, other people elevate you, and only by extending that grace to other people and like helping them, you will get elevated.
Like I think it's just a deterministic behavior, and like everybody knows like things come with sacrifice, but I feel like people are being so lazy in the egocentric mode that they're down to like just sacrifice the decency of like think about other people. That is their, you know what I mean? That's their, but it is a part of this upwardly mobile Western culture of like doggy dog, you got to make sure you take care of yourself, et cetera, et cetera. But as we said, like those options, I feel like people are only as loyal as their options. And like the option like of being out here on your own like that, with loneliness increasing, with like you needing to have some sort of like outreach and interconnectivity to even like make money and do these things, right? I feel like that is going to be a big change in terms of some people that realize they have to start working together with people. And I think also being somebody in business or the creative arts itself, like I think what your vocation has a lot to do with that as well too. Because there's somebody like trying to do this, but they've trapped themselves in some sort of place where they're a cog and they don't really like who they work with, and they're doing this as a means to an end, or maybe they're too scared to quit, So as you said, like such a combination of things behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I understand that, and you can be in an unfortunate, situation, and it's like it can be hard to get out of there. But that's where, if we foster that environment when people want to help you when you're failing, like we would have less of those situations when you're stuck, because then someone out will notice that and will try to help you. But because we don't tend to notice, and that's the very North American thing, because when I even first came here and I saw that there will be like someone will attack someone on the street, right, and start bothering them, or like someone will be bothering your girl on the street, right? Like no one will stop here. That's the difference. Like that's the difference between Kiev in Ukraine, where I was living, and Toronto in Canada. That just people don't stop. They pretend they don't see it. They will look in their phones, in the newspaper, and they will sit on the train, and someone will be, in a predicament, and someone will be in a conflict, and everyone will pretend like nothing is happening, right? Because it's like, it doesn't, like it's about them, right? It's their problem. It's not my problem. Like I just going with my day. But the difference, like in my hometown, was that everyone will stop whatever they doing, because there's this injustice happening. Therefore, it's everyone's problem, because it's happening here in society. Because first it's happening to them, tomorrow it's happening to you, right? And so that for me is something that maybe it's a marker of developed country, of rich country, of people having enough income to not have extended family, to not having like me. I was educated and by my grandmothers, right? And like you need extended family because we never had money to afford some, like my grandparents, they never could travel the world or whatever, like they never had that disposable income, right? So it feels like everyone, but then everyone here, because of the society is more, I guess, developed financially, so people have freedoms to not bother with grandkids and just travel, so there's disconnect over there. So it probably does a whole like chain that trickles down to the whatever society just generally behaving. But it starts, I feel like, in the childhood and in development. And maybe it's a bit too
No,
deep.
I like it. No, it's true. Like the selfishness, like, definitely a culture clash. Like, as I said, people want to be selfish. That's fine. The only thing that offends me is if you've committed to doing some sort of team thing, and then you do that at the sacrifice of like everybody. It's very hard for me to contemplate, especially when the team success is going to be conducive to your overall success, you know? But
Right.
people have their own mentality for like their self-sabotage is like a stronger phenomenon as you get older, I guess.
Yeah, imposter, syndrome. That's the thing as well.
Yeah. So like in terms of worldview with like humanity, like 2024, that's like a discussion like this has me thinking about like a project I was working on where I'm like, okay, like what's the hero look like now? Like what's a real hero? Who's gonna like, if somebody's gonna do something in like a moment to help somebody, like what does a hero look like now? Like I think there's a few kinds of like heroes. I would say a hero is somebody that will make a moment of self-sacrifice, like in a decision in a moment, and then also somebody who, not like self-defeating or anything like that, but somebody who is consistently, self-sacrificing for his or her collective of like who they appreciate and who they're trying to help. Like I think that's in terms of like where heroes are, and I feel like that drags along some of the outliers. But I just don't see like the human collective, like everybody in the world like acting right. Like I feel like everybody has their role to play, and only in time you're gonna see like what was the point of that. Because even for some reason in terms of this collective experience, like there's a reason why everybody did something today that ties in. So that guy's reason of being an asshole and etc. So as a side note, the reason I like film is because from my worldview, I feel like we're like in like God's movie. And we each have like these roles. Right. And like we're born into like the movie. And the movie's been going on before we're introduced, etc. But
we'll keep
we have
going
this backstory and then
we gone.
Exactly. Yeah. And the reason I think that is because the way experience works is that the future is going to determine how you end up feeling about the past, really, So as it comes to generations and stuff like that, it seems like certain things will never make sense. We realize like as we get older, but then certain things we think do make sense, and that's what we applied to culture, and that's why we could look and see like, yeah, this isn't right. You shouldn't be doing this, and you shouldn't be doing that. Like just from a human perspective, but historically, it really comes down to like that being ingrained in the collective culture of the society you're in from a top down.
Right.
So that's why it's kind of hard. Where it's like when people are given the options to do what they want, I don't know how often they're going to pick the right decision.
You actually also talked about an interesting thing I haven't thought about, like how that hero archetype just changed. Like what's the, what's typical, hero we had before, even like within maybe comic book genre, it was like the Superman, right? Like this guy who just has powers, out of nowhere, and then he just trying to do good for everyone. There's no rhyme or reason to it, And then who do we have right now? Like who replaced it? Maybe, in again, comic book genre, it was more like an Iron Man, right? Who's maybe didn't have any innate powers or anything, but he was super rich. So,
right?
It's kind of pivoted,
Well, that's one of the thing is I always say, because like the Superman, like according to like the philosophy, like the Superman's in the brain. The Superman is like reaching your peak level. I always say that Batman's like more Superman than like anybody, because you push your limits of your mental thinking to like rise above whatever reach your full human potential, right?
Right.
Or like in Nietzsche, right? Like God is dead, as he would say when he's philosopher. Like, you know what I mean? Who makes those kind of interjections when they're philosophizing, right? Like, so as I said, like if your ego's out of control, like do something with it. That's all I ask, because I guarantee we've had a lot of interesting things coming from like egoists before. But like in terms of a hero, you have to look in history and modern times, and I feel like that's somebody who goes outside of themselves to like lend a hand, and there's some sort of transformation, like as I said, the hero's journey. So the classic hero for me when I first grew up was that man on the mission thing. That's the lone predator, right? That's what we thought. Like, even though that was a lot of political propaganda and like hindsight, which is whatever, man. Okay, guys, it's just whatever. It's amazing. It's amazing. But it'd be very, very, very simple. It's like, that's the bad guy.
Yeah.
This is the good guy, and he's going to go, and this is what the bad guy wants, what the good guy wants. He's going to go up against the bad guy and defeat them. Yeah. And the good guy was usually very like westernized looking, and the bad guy was usually foreign.
Yeah.
At one point, it was Russian bad guys. At one point, it's the Arab bad guys. In some movies, it's the bad black street guys. As things got more, it's the African guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
so that was like such an interesting thing of like, where you can see that heroes can come just from like a juxtaposition. From just a juxtaposition, you know what I mean? So interesting.
Yeah, but it's in a way stereotyping, you know? It's just stereotyping thing, feeding into that. And I feel, that's why I feel in a lot of ways we kind of progressed past that and developed it even more. And even our villains right now are in ways sympathetic. Like just thinking about, you know, Joker or something. Like people will now go and craft those more in terms of like art, like as a filmmaking, as a writers, they will craft those more well-rounded profiles of you know, villains or heroes. Like heroes won't have just like abilities. They will have the whole, you know, roster of weaknesses and limitations, right? Like,
well, like, so for me.
Or you like that black and white world?
No, like even in terms of like the stuff you're saying, like I'm gonna look at it in terms of because I can get deep into this. I'm always looking because I love the film stuff in terms of like what are they projecting? Like these quote unquote superheroes from like Marvel, for example, are like souped up. They're like wizards. They're supernatural energy projecting like superhuman people, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's a very modernized view of like the hero. Like the classic hero is really like the average day Joe, you know what I mean? Like one thing that really changed action movies was Die Hard,
right?
Because it was this guy who had his wife and they were fighting. He's not sure he's gonna get divorced, barely surviving. And then he's just in this situation where he has to like rise to it against these foreign German terrorists over here. And that really was exciting people like back in the
I
day.
agree. And that's inherently more exciting story for me than having this super duper human being. And then each time they have to come up with a crazier, you know, cosmic entity to even fight them, because nothing really can fight them, because no, you know, bad guys will
the thing that's
be
appealing
able to take him down.
The thing that's appealing, I think, is that like the consequences. It's like the whole world or like the universe. Because
you have to up the stakes every time, but then you reach the limit. You're already talking, you know, cosmic levels. The whole universe is like fighting him or whatever. Like that. What's beyond, and that's why the power levels don't make freaking sense. You know. Because it ruins it. Like you need to ground your character, your hero, in something. And that's why they have to keep rebooting it, because there's nowhere to go. Like they have to reboot it because it's like he fought everyone.
Yeah, I think you just make it
possible to fight. You know,
like I think just make it like different. Like I wonder. Yeah, like I'm interested in how I would do like, so to like end this philosophy. I said like, for me to like put my money where my mouth is, whatever, I'm like, okay, like how would I do like a quote unquote movie where somebody had like powers or et cetera, or like even just like a hero movie. Yeah. But for me, what the thing I'm thinking about is that just in terms of the classic hero, the first scene that I'm writing in this is showing that, and he ends up getting like powers, whatever, but showing that he's a hero before he gets powers. Mm-hmm. Because that's what I've seen a lot, like in this thing where it's like, okay, you're kind of a jerk, but then you get these powers and then you change your mind. I'm like, that's like lame. Like I'd rather somebody that like shows their hero. So I have something where somebody pretty much, it's a situation, Somebody's in dire trouble.
Yeah.
It's a whole crowd. They're running away.
Yeah.
He's looking at this. I guess there's some sort of murder on the run. He's looking at somebody he can save. He has his own life. He's like looking at this way everybody's running. He decides to go. See, he decides to be the hero, and he ends up being killed, but he ends up being revived in some place, and then we're gonna have some I think that's my
reminds me
purpose
RoboCop.
Oh, see, that was exact. So okay, perfect, because I like talking tropes like that.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna get into the esoteric classic stories and stuff like this,
Yeah.
you don't even need to use film tropes. I'll just say this is rebirth.
Yeah.
And in terms of classic philosophy, for the human being to reach to every level, they're going through some sort of rebirth where they're looking at things differently, right?
Yeah.
So that is one of the biggest symbolic things, and actually showing you this is a same person but different. So for RoboCop, that's one of my favorite, because you're looking at a man that's no longer a man, but he's a machine. So now you can do the juxtaposition of between what kind of actions would be robotic and what actions would be humanity. As you can tell, I love the robot movies is the best. What does it mean to be human? You know what I mean? And then the robot's always more human than the rest of the humans out there.
Is that something that you would want to explore, in film? Would you want to make a movie about this kind of hero, another? What do you think?
Yeah.
Or what's the topics you would like to explore?
Yeah.
In your films?
Oh, in my films?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. In terms of the topics, I just really try to kind of project a worldview that goes towards trying to understand things better, or situations. I always said, I like to make movies that are the story behind the headline that you would read. Mm-hmm. And now the only thing that kind of changes how is what I do in terms of form. That's it. And I'm leaning towards form that involves relationships. I don't feel it needs to be just a bunch of people and something happening. It can be a guy and his friend, a girl and her friend, lovers, sisters, brothers, some sort of family, some sort of relationship, and then putting this relationship through this experience where it's a grinder, so that we can actually see how these things manifest. So you're not just looking at things at a surface level. And then the best thing about when you're making a movie, especially in 2024, is that everybody thinks they've seen everything, they know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So if you can pull somebody through it and they're not sure what's going to happen, you are kind of transforming the way they can think about something that they're used to knowing, and then maybe take it away when they walk away and be man, I'm going to now look at things differently when I'm walking down the street, even from even if I had somebody else creeping around corners in a movie, right? I want to make sure next time you walk into a dark warehouse, you're oh yeah, the movie happened again? This is shook. Or if there's a lot of phone calls in the movie, next time you get a phone call, you're thinking about, etc. But yeah, I love diving into just testing my own philosophy about things, or showing how things could be in a real manner.
Mm-hmm. I really like that.
Yeah.
And what would you suggest to people going into filming, young people that's going to film school, or maybe avoiding film school whatsoever? What would be your suggestion to them, how to get into this industry?
How to get into the industry? It depends on what your goal is first. But if your goal is to make movies, I would say, make your first movie. Make your first movie however you can with what you got. Don't break the bank, but that just makes the most sense to me in terms of what you're trying to do now. And I feel a lot of people think it's not, they want their first thing to be perfect, and they're looking sideways about how people are doing things, and it's no, nobody really knows. I think in terms of what Igor was saying before, if you're going to be a camera technical person, then yes, you want to get closer to camera operators, you want to work in the camera department, you want to know that camera the back of your hand. But I think if you're a writer, then you better start writing. If you're a producer, you got to produce something. If you're a director, direct something. And I mean like today or next week or immediately. And I think I'm going to put some more information out. Like, I think I'll do like, so that's a good segue to this. I was thought about putting some content out where like, maybe I just like make a film or something in the day for like nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that would be like something good for somebody to see that's getting into filmmaking?
Of course. Of course.
Or showing these like cheat codes or being like, here's an example of like a budget. And
yeah.
I think also for anybody that's doing something, like really just do like budget first. Like I've kind of put that now into my filmmaking style where it's like, this is what we could make this for. If we get more money, that's fine. But yeah, let the budget dictate the script instead of like thinking you don't have enough and having to try to get grants and everything to do something.
But just finish it. That's my, philosophy as well. I'm like, just finish it. You have to finish it. Like you cannot sit on it and it just finish it and move on to the next thing. And because the thing is, you will have to make a certain amount of them before you're going to become good. So the faster you will start pumping them out, the better.
Exactly.
So you will reach that point when you're good faster in a way.
And I think people need to start being a little bit more formulaic, but knowing how to like play with that form. Because I feel like filmmaking like takes so long for some people. They're trying to put all these abstract things together where it's like, and I'm trying to create like a program, but if it's like, okay, have one dialogue scene, have an action scene, have a villain. Okay, go shoot these things with the confidence that like this is just what you need to do for repetition anyway. You get to actually have a proper output of product by going out to do something when you have a camera. I think it's one of the most underrated things about having the camera. Like you can go capture action that's happening already. There's not really any excuses for not shooting something and making something.
Right.
You're just gonna additionally put some other stuff, but like every film is a documentary. Like narrative film is just telling the people in the documentary what they're gonna do. Pretty much narrative film is closer to garbage reality TV in process more so than right? It just doesn't have the veneer. It has like a very cool veneer of like real things, but it's like, do this, but better. Come back like and do this again, or do this argument, or you know what I mean? Right. But as an independent filmmaker, like, make a film about something that you're aware of. If you're a bouncer and if you're a bouncer, for example, and you're a filmmaker, make your short film about like a crazy night when you go to work. Yeah. Or just outside waiting in line. And people are coming, the line's long and nobody's there. I'm not sure, right? But I think you can get at what I'm saying.
Practice it. At the end, it's a practice. And the more you practice, the better. But what's in for Eric? Like, what's next? Tell me a little bit about what's happening in the future.
Well, that's what I'm in a bit of. Right now, I'm circling the block. Like, just finished a lot of projects. Yeah. That took a pound of flesh. So now I can kind of chill on those and then think about what's next. But what I want to do is I definitely want to be more collaborative. I want to collaborate with you more. We should work together and shoot some things and want to see what you're doing and how I can be involved. Like I love Level Up Studios. Thank you. So want to know how I can work with them and just really, really trying to turn this filmmaking thing and collaboration, all this into like a reasonable lifestyle and maybe do more things with animation to do some more remote things. But the future is really open right now in terms of who I'm going to be collaborating with and how, but I want it to be a big pillar of what I do this year. Right.
It's interesting. It's this year for me as well is like that. Is like rediscovering and going back more into film because I've been stuck in television for a really, really long time. So it's been 17 years now. And like the last year, end of the year, it was like that was a decision for me to pivot and start looking more at film. Yeah. So I feel like we're on the same track this year. So we're definitely going to collaborate.
Exactly. How do you feel about being in front of the camera?
Being in front of the camera? Well, I feel it's tough. It's tough. It's not something that I would wanted to do, but it's something that you almost have to do because of social media, and you have to put yourself out. And especially when you start a business and you kind of face of your business, then you almost have to be, in front of a camera. In a way, like I could have hired someone and build that person, but then it kind of loses the purpose, of the idea of having your own business, like, and being the face of that business. So it's like, I can't say that I'm enjoying it. I'm like going through it, and I'm trying to do it better. I'm still, learning. It's a learning curve for me. So I'm struggling with it a little bit, but I know it's something new. It's something new, and I feel like response is great from community and from people. And a lot of people told me that they enjoy listening to me. So I don't know. I will try to keep doing it and see where it's gonna go. But I'm not I don't have big ego, and I'm not doing this to boost it or something. I'm just doing it because I feel that if you trying to build something for community and you try to build your business, and you try to, and we do, we collaborate with Rise Entertainment and Afrowave, and we started this project called Our Crib Uncut here. We're trying to do events every couple of weeks when we engage community, engage musicians, producers, and we try to showcase their project, their music, their skills, and bring more attention to our creatives here in Toronto. And I think that's getting back to you don't elevate yourself, you elevate other people, and then maybe they will elevate you. And that's what I'm trying to do here with like Level Up and Our Crib Uncut, that we're trying to elevate other people and like build those showcases and have programs for them, like script to screen. We have this other program happening right now for filmmakers, young filmmakers who want to learn. So yeah, it's all about giving back to community, and then just something will return.
Yeah, of course. No, that's what it is. You're a producer more than a consumer. That's the main thing. Like I got to like I realized, and I'm not sure if it's you, I'm not going to psychoanalyze you, but I'll find myself almost consuming myself if I'm not emitting,
right,
and producing and doing something. If I was gonna like sit in the room like not do nothing, like I'd be like a skeleton like in the 2 days, because I just like to keep my mind busy on creating. And then also the creative process, which some people don't get, is that you do get to think about everything at the same time. Like you think about your past and the future and all these things and emotions, and you can put it into the process you're doing. That's why it's an addictive and the process I'd like to spend most of my life in. If I was like happy to live, like I'd be like, I'm just creating things all the time.
Yes, I like it because then it shows for me that you found yourself. Like this is because I feel the same about what I'm doing, that I'm like, I wouldn't be able to do anything else, honestly. It's just, I feel that I'm in the right spot, and this is what I meant to do. So I wouldn't be able, like you're saying, just sit there at home and like do nothing, or like do some routine, make some spreadsheets in Excel or whatever. Like I wouldn't be able, like that will eat me, from inside in a way. So that shows me as well that you're in the right, in the right industry. Yeah. And I'm very glad that you didn't go to, sciences and didn't explore that fully and switched.
No, man, it was too boring, man.
Yeah, pharmaceutical, we should thank pharmaceutical for being so ruthless for Eric switching to filmmaking.
Exactly, switching to filmmaking.
Well, on that note, thank you, Eric, for coming.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
I appreciate it.
And I think we're going to see more of you around here at Level Up, because we're going to collaborate for sure.
Exactly.
Like that's the year. And to all of you, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. That's pretty good.
Sick. Easy breezy. Yeah, man. I'm chilling.